morning, friends. It's Bridgetti Lim Banda here. Welcome to the CuppaChino Club's social TV channel. An empowered woman is someone who knows her strengths and isn't afraid to embrace it. And we have been introducing you over the last couple of weeks to women in leadership in various forms and women who wish to inspire and empower to to lift as they rise. And it's been an incredibly exciting journey so far. So I am Bridgetti Lim Banda. I am a live video confidence coach. I host live video shows and help brands, entrepreneurs, thought leaders, social good initiatives, authors, and women in power to share their stories. I'm also very passionate about responsible social media. My co-host is an accomplished senior executive herself. It's Viola Manuel, and she was nominated for many awards. She was previously CEO of the Cape Chamber of Commerce and Industry, for example. She was also the executive director of the Cape IT Initiative, a member of the Western Cape Premier's Council of Skills, to mention a few. And she's also a non-executive at the National Sea Rescue Institute, and is deputy chair of the Cape Town Stadium. She's got two entrepreneurial ventures, and the one is called G&V Retail and Afri Wellness. But she always reminds me that her proudest achievement ever is her son Shay. Viola, hi. Hi, welcome.
Hello,
How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you so much for mentioning my proudest achievement. Yeah, it's not easy being a mom. I was watching a documentary the other day, and it was very interesting for me that I forget who it was that said, for the first real test of leadership is motherhood. And I've really just had to take on that leadership role with much gusto because Shay's 10 now and there's lots of talking, lots of opinions being shared as if they were fact. And, we just have to manage that process, and he's absolutely the love of my life. He just keeps me really busy. So, yeah, thank you for acknowledging, not only is it my proudest achievement, it's probably my toughest achievement as well. So, yeah.
I want to second that one.
Yeah,
there's no user guide because each child is so unique and different. And I
yeah,
think that's an amazing dynamic to your ability as a woman to lead in business
yes,
when you have been able to mother a child, whether it's adopted or whether it's a
yeah,
natural child, but it adds an interesting dynamic to your ability to lead because I think a child has the ability to challenge you as a person
yes,
in ways that nothing else can. And I think you can take that experience into the workplace and make it work for you because it humanizes whatever you've learned academically.
yeah.
That's one component of leadership that they can't teach you at a university, that you it's a life skill you learn through being a mother.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I also think just being a mom actually makes you a very attractive employee. I don't know if employers understand that because you are so you've got to be at work at a certain time because you've got to drop the kids at a certain time. Once you've dropped them, you go to work. You've got to get all your work done because at a certain time you've got to go and pick them up. You just can't sort of be hanging around and not doing what you need to do because effective mothering also means that you've got to manage your time effectively and manage your time well. And I'm always one of those moms that are sort of coming around the corner at my son's school on two wheels, just so that I don't disappoint him. I just desperately don't want him to be the last one fetched from school because, Shay has that whole look on his face that says to me, why are you late? What were you doing? That kind of stuff. Am I not a priority anymore? I get all that kind of melodramatic comments afterwards. But
Yeah.
I do think it's quite challenging, and I think one of the themes that has come through this whole leadership series is the idea of as a woman you are expected to deliver certain things in terms of your performance. I think each sector is very different. For me, one of the big highlights in the NGO sector, for example, has been the fact that you have to constantly prove yourselves to be, worthy of the funding, constantly counting the numbers, etc., etc. And today we were hoping to host a program on women in leadership in government. And the fact that we actually don't have participants today is quite a long story, but I think it actually speaks about some of the challenges of being a woman in leadership in government. One of the big challenges that the ladies were talking to me about was the fact that they had to get special permission to speak on this platform, whether it was in their personal capacity or not. And I think that's one of the challenges, is that a leadership role in government is fraught with red tape.
Oh,
Lots of people.
absolutely. I want to just
Yeah,
quickly say welcome to all our viewers on LinkedIn, on
yeah,
Periscope, on Facebook, on Twitter, and I see there are three people live watching us on LinkedIn right now. And not to cut into what you're saying in terms of red tape, the other sector I found that to be true is the banking sector, because I've approached so many people in the banking sector as well. Lots of red tape with transparency, and I
yes,
don't know why.
yes.
Transparency is so 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 important. And talking about government, something that I've not yet seen happening in South Africa that I've seen is done very badly here. I don't think I've even mentioned it to you, but in a lot of states in the US, it's now become law to live stream their meetings. It's
Wow,
written,
that's interesting.
it's written into law to live stream their meetings. Why? Because it makes government more transparent. I'm talking about municipal level. It
Oh,
makes it transparent because people in the community, those meetings are open, but not everyone can be there. But
correct.
if the meetings are live streamed, it's an interactive platform. Unlike one-way, it's not the same when you're transmitting a municipal meeting on TV, for example, because there's no interaction. It's just one
Correct.
way. It's spewing out information. But when it's live streamed, it's interactive and citizens can actually participate. So you're calling that a more inclusive way of engaging with your community. And I'd love to see that happening in South Africa. We can do it.
Wow. That blows my mind, because I mean, just trying to get the ladies, so trying to get them to download the necessary app that we needed, just trying to get them to participate. And again, the emphasis is that you're participating in your private capacity. You're just literally going to be just talking to women about what your experience is in that industry. Just could not get done. It just could not get done. And then I think the second challenge for women government, which I've now experienced trying to put the show together, has been the fact that every day things change. So
Mm.
there's just been so many challenges in specifically provincial government right now and national government, with everything happening with the main opposition party. You'd have them scheduled for conversations now, and 3 hours or 4 hours before it's supposed to happen, people are calling you to say, look, we can't make it, we've been called into an emergency meeting, we've got to start strategizing. So it's really an interesting sector, it's really an interesting space to work. I think the public sector is a very challenging space to work in. You constantly hear about red tape, and you constantly hear about um, the bureaucracy, but you really don't realize that the bureaucracy affects the people working there as well, not just people engaging with them. So I struggle to see just how some people can get around it. I must say I understand it. I mean, I get the fact that you can't just be sort of allowed to download whatever you want to download onto a government platform. That's a dangerous space to play. And you and I know that the latest conversation that everybody's having around your cybercrime is that cybercrime, the user is held responsible. you can't sort of blame the person that's engaged in the criminal activity only. The user is now being held accountable for what you allow onto your onto your devices. So I do understand it. It's not something that's not understandable, but it does give us a little bit of a glimpse into the world of working within government. Private sector, it seems that it's like each one to his, like they're law unto themselves. But I think in that middle echelons, the sort of senior management or just supervisory space, I think they are burdened with
Mm.
red tape and bureaucracy. One of the ladies was saying to me, we can't only talk through our communications department. I needed to get permission from the communications department. And it was quite harrowing. I also think that we mustn't be naive. I also recognize that a lot of these women are inundated with emails and calls and people wanting to chat to them about some crazy harebrained schemes and so on. So, even having to vet every conversation and every email, a lot of our emails actually went unanswered. A lot of my messages went unanswered. And I do understand that, they're probably inundated with people wanting to talk to them. So, they look for the priority emails and sort of work through it. Whereas in the private sector, that wouldn't work. You never know where the good idea is sitting. So you constantly like running through every email and responding to every email, because you never know where the sales opportunity is, where the partnership opportunity is. So it's a very interesting space. And I mean, many of us, even the ladies in the women in leadership for NPOs and NGOs, were saying even their engagement with governments, very numbers driven, very report driven. And you understand again that doesn't always mean that that email gets responded to, at the time that you need it to be responded to. So yeah, so I think we must just apologize to all of our viewers that we don't have guests today to look at the whole women in leadership in government. It hasn't been easy to put that together, but I'm really excited about next week's show, because it's going to deal with a social partner that's been conspicuous in its absence, and that is women in leadership in trade unions. I think they are a huge social partner that very often gets, sort of tacked on towards the, only because we must. The engagement with them is always sometimes, some people perceive it to be very challenging, etc. But I know that those women, lots of young ladies out there may not be considering a career in the trade union space, but it might be a very, I think, exciting space to work in. So we'll
Oh,
find out more about
absolutely.
that.
I mean, it's a part of the economy, and I often say that about the informal sector, and we seem to be dismissive of the informal sector,
Yes,
and it's a thriving part of our economy. It's a huge part of our economy, and it's driven mainly by women per se.
correct.
The informal sector, it's an unspoken of economy, and some people seem to somehow think because it's informal, it's not real.
Yes.
But real money gets traded, even if it doesn't go via the banks, it doesn't mean that it's not a transaction and that it's
Yes.
not business. It's a
Yeah.
thriving economy, and,
Correct.
and and driven by women who do phenomenally well. And I don't think we should be so dismissive. So I'm really looking forward to that conversation with women in trade unions next week. And then also a bit further down the line, I am extremely delighted about our conversation that we're going to be hosting in November. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I'm quite excited about that as well. So, CuppaChino Club has had three very distinct sort of formats to our show. The one format was sort of the one-on-one interviews, which you conducted and did a brilliant job. And we met some really interesting women like Madeleine Gomes, and we met Donna Podens, and we met some really good women. Yolanda was there, some exciting ladies. And then we've had these online panel discussions about women in leadership in that series. But our very first episode was a roundtable discussion. And that was so successful. Very interesting discussion. And we had lots of women sitting around and just talking to each other about what it meant to be a woman in South Africa today. And I really was inspired by that conversation. I think one of the big take homes for me was the whole idea that, initially about maybe even 5, 10 years ago, when you were a woman in leadership, you had to be quite strong and quite brash and sort of brazen, and sort of a few rough edges and sharp edges to you, and you sort of walked
And
into it.
it's I know. Sorry to interject there.
No, go ahead.
I appreciated that a lot of the women there were saying you don't have to become a man to lead as a woman. You
Yes.
can actually use your femininity
Yes.
to your advantage because it
Yes.
adds a dynamic to leadership that the males don't have.
Correct. And so that was the second sort of thing that I took home, is that brass and sort of aggressive leadership had then allowed a little bit of femininity into it. And we're not talking about a flirtatious femininity.
No,
It was a femininity that made you who you were. Because what we were saying is, very often in boardrooms, I've had that experience where you are the only woman there, and so you are representing a gender to the rest
yeah,
of the group, and you can't misrepresent or underrepresent that gender. And we are girls, and girls are girls, and we do things a certain way, and we approach things a certain way, and to deny that is actually taking away from who we are. And I think the sort of final blow for me in terms of the discussion, the thing that really blew my mind, was that a lot of women were saying that the where we are now is that we need to be able to offer that leadership, be quite strong in what we do as women, and then also start actively looking for younger women in the crowd, younger women in our space, younger women in our networks to mentor and to open our networks too. For me, mentorship without opening your networks it's just ineffective. You have to say to this young lady, you know what, I do know somebody in your industry. Here's the telephone number. Let me call them. Let me make a connection for you. I do know somebody that you can sell your wares to. I do have an opportunity to open a market for you, to give you some market access. It has to happen as just like a natural part of mentorship. So that discussion was quite interesting. So we have another topic for the 23rd of November, which is going to talk about this whole issue of entitlement and privilege in South Africa today.
a
I
thorny subject, but a necessary one. And I
absolutely,
don't think it has to be thorny. I think it's embracing the cultures, the many cultures that we have in South Africa. Um, I
yeah,
think I think it's finding ways of embracing it in a better way
yes,
and using it to our advantage. I don't want to add a negative connotation to it. I don't think it has to be negative. I think it can be very positive.
it could.
Um, yeah.
It could be, but right now it's a weaponized word. It's a word that is used to punish, and it is a word that's used to create negativity in the space. I do believe that this whole idea of privilege, we need to start assessing quite carefully, and not be naive enough to think that it's only economic privilege. There's
And
gender.
we shouldn't deny it. I think that's
Correct.
I think not talking about it is putting your head in the sand.
Mhm.
Denying its existence,
Yeah.
denying how it makes us feel. And to
Talk about it. I think that it's become quite interesting.
we've got Afrikaans comment.
Lovely.
I
I
think that's our very first Afrikaans comment. I think I
Well
must
done.
translate that. It says the person saying this is a comment coming from a viewer on Twitch. And in Afrikaans it says Dink almal in Suid-Afrika moet ontspan. And the direct translation would be I think everyone in South Africa should relax.
Yeah, and I think the comment actually is very valid, because we need to start de-weaponizing this word and actually start talking about how do we deal with this whole issue of privilege. How do we deal with this whole issue of that? And for me, it's not about anything else but emotional intelligence. How emotionally intelligent are we to start taking these conversations forward? Um,
I
yeah.
think that's a fantastic topic that we need to add to our list, Viola.
Yes.
Emotional intelligence in women and how that benefits us in business.
Yeah.
So let's put that onto the calendar as well. So for now, next week, just to quickly summarize, because I think we need to wrap this up. To
Yeah.
summarize quickly, next week is Women in Trade Unions.
Yes.
And then we are building up for I think, did we say the 23rd of November?
23rd of
Is
November. Saturday, the 23rd of November at 9. Say
okay.
9:30.
And
We'll start at 9:30.
are all our slots full yet, or always do we still have one or two openings?
We have one or two openings. If anybody is interested in participating, any of the ladies are interested in participating, they can contact us.
Okay.
Perfect.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And my goodness, it does it get any better? Now I'm going to put myself on a limb here. I'm going to say that this is probably our first Causa comment.
Yay! Well done. Oh, that's awesome. That is so awesome. Can you translate that one?
No, I'm afraid not. I really wish that at the time I was at school that we were forced to learn a third
Yeah.
language. So I'm a little bit challenged in that, and I apologize for that.
Okay.
But thank you for that comment.
Thanks so much. Thanks very much, Brigitte. We'll chat to each other really, really soon, and I'm looking forward to next week.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
See you
Bye
next
bye.
week. Have a fantastic day from Cape Town. It's goodbye for now.
Bye.